We're going to do things a little differently this year, and we're going to go land by land, showing you every ride in the land before we move on to the next one. We're going to begin in Tomorrowland, and the first thing you're going to notice is that Astro Orbiter is behind construction walls. No one knows exactly when it's going to reopen, but the sign says winter 2024, so we hope that means before spring break, but it's really anybody's guess. Astro Orbiter has no height requirement, which I find a bit surprising. I mean, sure, it's basically Dumbo, but it goes higher and feels faster. Either way, hopefully we'll all be back soaring high in the air above Disneyland soon. Next, we have Star Tours The Adventure Continues. Guests must be at least 40 inches tall to ride this Star Wars flight simulator attraction. Every ride is different since the 3 main flight sequences are randomized on every ride through, meaning that Star Tours is like a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're gonna get.
And for 2024, new adventures will be coming to this attraction starting on April 5th. I can't wait to see what it brings. Star Tours is a part of the Genie Plus service. Across the path is Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. This Lightning Lane eligible attraction has no height requirement, meaning that even babies can ride. It's a video game style ride that gives each guest a laser gun and control of their own ride vehicle. You'll be fighting alongside Buzz Lightyear to defeat the evil Emperor Zurg. Diamond and triangle targets provide more points, and targets are worth more when they're lit. There's even a hidden 50,000 point target on Zurg's chest plate. Compete against your family members and see if you have what it takes to become a galactic hero. The most iconic ride in Tomorrowland is Space Mountain. This is easily my second most favorite ride at Disneyland. And if you'd like to know my first, you'll just have to keep watching. This roller coaster ride in the dark is the same classic attraction it's been for years, except when it's not. We've received word that Season of the Force is making its return to Disneyland from April 5th through June 2nd of 2024, and that means Hyperspace Mountain will make its return. This is easily my absolute favorite version of the 3 different iterations that have occurred here at Disneyland. Space Mountain is on Genie Plus and has a 40-inch height requirement. One of 4 Disneyland Railroad stations can be found in Tomorrowland, and in my opinion, the stretch from Tomorrowland to Main Street USA is the best of them. It features a journey back into the primeval world with dinosaurs and fun effects. You're welcome to ride for a single leg, enjoy the whole loop, or otherwise stay on as long as you like. Right next to the Disneyland Railroad is Autopia. This Lightning Lane attraction has a 32-inch height minimum to ride with an adult, and guests must be at least 54 inches to ride alone. This ride gets a lot of hate, and it's not without cause. For a ride that claims to be about the future, the old, noisy, fume-spewing gas guzzlers are outdated and a little unwieldy to drive. That doesn't stop my kids from having a grand time on the attraction, however.
This is Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, not Autopia!
The Disneyland Monorail is another transportation-style attraction that can be found in Tomorrowland. It's not always running, as the carriages don't have air conditioning, so during the hottest parts of the day in the summer, the ride closes until temperatures drop. You can take the monorail to downtown Disney to grab a bite to eat and return to your hotel, or stick around for a full loop back into the park. They will force all guests to disembark upon returning to Tomorrowland. Be aware that if you get off at Downtown Disney, you will need to scan your park ticket to get back onto the attraction and return to Disneyland. The final ride in Tomorrowland is Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage. I feel that it's been greatly improved since they added the Finding Nemo theme to the attraction, but it's still a tight enclosed space that's mostly underwater. That, coupled with the pitch black darkness so heavy you can feel it at one point throughout the ride, and some people might find themselves a little claustrophobic. There's nothing outright scary with the ride, and is perfect for children of all ages since it boasts no height requirement.
If you're enjoying this video and finding it helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button. It really does help out the channel. And if you want to save money on your next Disneyland vacation, call my friends at Getaway today and tell them that SoCal Disney Dad sent you. Or click the link down in the description and use my coupon code to save on top of their already discounted packages.
Before we move on to Fantasyland, we're actually going to skip right by Matterhorn and It's a Small World to enter Mickey's Toontown. The first ride you'll see upon entering the land is Disneyland's newest attraction, which opened in January of 2023. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway has no height requirement and is available on Genie Plus. When it first opened, it was part of the individual Lightning Lane service, which required an extra fee. But as of October 11th, 2023, this ride is now a part of the standard Genie Plus service. When Toontown reopened in March of 2023, the 2 previous attractions reopened with it, but GADGETcoaster received a new name and a fresh new look. Now it's called Chip 'n Dale's GADGETcoaster. A lot of people didn't understand that Gadget was the name of the female chipmunk friend of Chip 'n Dale, so the rename makes a bit more thematic sense now. It's still the same ride it used to be, and is a perfect entry-level coaster for kids. On the other side of the land, Roger Rabbit's cartoon spin remains untouched. It's essentially the spinning teacups, but with dark ride elements around the Roger Rabbit theme. I don't really like Roger Rabbit. Couple that with my extreme dislike of spinning rides, and this easily falls to my least favorite ride in the park. There's nothing inherently wrong with the ride, and it does feature both no height requirement and lightning lane access, so it's at least worthy of your consideration. As we head back out into Fantasyland, our first ride we'll come across is It's a Small World. This classic attraction has been entertaining guests at Disneyland since 1966, ever since it moved to the park from the 1964 World's Fair in New York City. Most viewers won't need any additional information on this attraction other than to say that it's Lightning Lane eligible, but I would like to share that a key difference between our It's a Small World and the one in Walt Disney World is that ours features Disney characters throughout the ride. My family always finds a lot of joy in finding them and pointing them out. The next attraction is Matterhorn Bobsleds, which towers over the area and is visible from most locations both inside and outside the park. It's definitely a Disneyland icon. This coaster is the world's first steel tubular roller coaster that opened all the way back in 1959. This Lightning Lane attraction has a 42-inch height requirement and features a few dark and scary moments that might be frightening to little ones who just meet the limit, so parental discretion is advised.
Matterhorn is one of a few rides in the park that boasts a single rider line, so now's a great time to talk about how that works. Single rider is exactly kind of what it sounds like. It's used in the busier rides that have weird configurations, like Matterhorn has 2 carriages of 3 people each. Well, if you have a party of 4, they're going to put 2 and 2, and that leaves 1 seat empty. So they take single riders and fill in those empty seats. If the main standby line is 50 minutes, which it is right now for Matterhorn, you might wait 10 to 15 minutes in the single rider line, so it significantly cuts down on the wait time. What happens though is that your party, if you go in with a party, will be split and separated, because again, they're trying to fill in those empty seats. Because of this, riders must be a minimum of 7 years of age because they may end up riding alone.
Right next to Matterhorn Bobsleds is Alice in Wonderland. This classic dark ride has no height requirement and is not a part of Genie Plus, meaning the only way to ride is through the regular standby line. It's one of the more popular attractions in Fantasyland, so be sure to ride it earlier in the day to avoid longer wait times. It's slow moving, but it is dark inside and features a lot of sharp turns, loud noises, and bright elements, so children with sensory issues might want to skip this attraction. Then there's Mad Tea Party, or simply the spinning teacups as they're most often referred to. This is my second least favorite attraction in the park, and I rarely ride it. On the occasion that my children do drag me on, I try to convince them not to spin it, as it is possible to ride the attraction without the dreaded spin. But spinning is half the fun, and my children usually have their way in the end, much to my dismay. Storybook Land Canal Boats is another ride with no height requirement, as almost all of the rides in the Fantasyland area are. If you request to sit up front, your children can be whale watchers and sit on the very front part of the boat, which is a special experience and well worth waiting for the next boat to enjoy. This ride will take you slowly through your favorite fairy tales as you enjoy miniature models of iconic places from famous Disney movies. While you're riding, you might see the Casey Jr. Circus train drive by. Though it's a little deeper into Fantasyland, we can talk about Casey Jr. Circus Train next. This attraction often has a bit of a wait, and a lot of the ride vehicles can be a bit uncomfortable, so my family doesn't ride this all that often, but if the stars align, we'll hop aboard for a gentle journey around the same waterways as Storybook Land Canal Boats, while being treated to our favorite Dumbo song, the Casey Jr. theme song. Speaking of Dumbo, that's the next ride to talk about in our Disneyland Ride Guide for 2024. There's nothing surprising here. Dumbo features no height requirement, nor is it on Lightning Lane, again, like most of the attractions found here in Fantasyland. We've even taken our children on this attraction when they were little ones still in baby carriers. Attractions like this one are also pregnancy safe, so anytime you see a ride without a height requirement, you're okay. If it's safe for an 8-week-old baby, it's going to be safe for mama too. Across the way is the entrance to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which is technically the only ride at Disneyland. The rest are officially called attractions. I personally find it enjoyable, if a bit rough. And as with many of the dark rides in Fantasyland, some of the jerky moments, flashing lights, and loud noises might just be a bit much for children that are easily overstimulated. Next door is the most popular ride in Fantasyland, Peter Pan's Flight. This attraction is a rope drop destination, meaning that the line almost immediately becomes 30 minutes long and will stay that way all day, if not worse. The only tried and true way to avoid a wait is to be at the front of the line when the park officially opens, or gain early entry to Disneyland by staying at one of the Disneyland hotels.
There's only 3 hotels that give you early entry, and they're all Disneyland owned. The Disneyland Hotel, the Grand Californian Hotel, and the Pixar Place Hotel. Early entry gives you 30 minutes early access into the park. That means starting at 7:30 a.m. Starting on January 20th, they're actually switching to only one park having early entry per day, and the parks will alternate. Disneyland, so far, as of the time of this filming, only has early entry on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and DCA is the 4 other days. As far as what rides are available for early entry, it's most rides in Tomorrowland and Fantasyland. For all other attractions, you'll have to wait until 8 o'clock when the park opens.
Next up, we have Snow White's Enchanted Wish. This ride has had a lot of its scarier elements removed since its transformation from Snow White's Scary Adventure to Snow White's Enchanted Wish. But that doesn't mean it's completely without its hesitations. Now, my kids have never had a problem with it, but I'm trying to be mindful of all types of children. However, I find Snow White to be far better than its neighbor, Pinocchio's Daring Journey. Despite saying that, I find myself riding this ride more often than Snow White, simply because this line is often shorter and easier to get onto. However, just like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, there are sharp turns, dark rooms with bright elements, and scarier elements in the storytelling that make this attraction another one where I encourage parental discretion. The last ride in Fantasyland is King Arthur Carousel. This is a pretty standard carousel with some fun history. This is actually the only ride that's older than Disneyland itself. Originally built in 1922, it operated at the Sunnyside Beach Park in Toronto, Canada, until the park closed. The most iconic horse on the attraction is Jingles, which was dedicated to Julie Andrews in 2008 for her performance as Mary Poppins. We finally leave Fantasyland behind and enter one of my favorite lands in the whole park, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. The first ride you'll come across entering from this direction is Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. This is a video game simulator attraction that's like combining Star Tours and Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. Each vehicle seats 6 guests, with 2 functioning as pilots, 2 as gunners, and 2 as engineers. The first 2 positions do what you think they do, while the engineer is in charge of shields and firing the harpoon. You all need to work together, and you receive a score based on how much coaxium you recover and how little you damaged the Falcon. Smuggler's Run is a Lightning Lane eligible attraction with a 38-inch height requirement. But the most popular ride in Disneyland is also found in Galaxy's Edge, and it also happens to be my favorite ride. Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Even if you're not a Star Wars nerd like myself, you are almost guaranteed to love this attraction. I've heard guests who know nothing about Star Wars praise this ride for its immersive storytelling and amazing effects. If you've never ridden this attraction, you need to fix that on your next visit to Disneyland. This ride has a 40-inch height requirement and is on the individual Lightning Lane program. That means that it's not available via the standard Genie Plus service and is instead on an a la carte fee if you wish to use the Lightning Lane. As we exit Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, we enter Critter Country. Here you'll find the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. This slow-moving dark ride is perfect for children as it has no height requirement. Due to its lack of popularity and lack of a Lightning Lane, it actually boasts one of the lowest waits in the park on the busiest days of the year. It's our go-to when everything else in the park is just too crowded. If everything stays on schedule, Splash Mountain should complete its transformation to Tiana's Bayou Adventure later this year. No official opening date has been announced as of the time of this filming, but Disney originally claimed that it would be opening at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World in late 2024. The last ride in this area is one you might not have even known about, and it's so out of the way and so disliked that it almost never has a line, and that's Davy Crockett's Explorer Canoes. This ride actually requires manual labor as you row your own canoe around the rivers of America. You're legitimately in a canoe, and it is actually floating in the water, so children are required to wear life vests. It's actually surprising to me that this attraction has no height requirement. Despite the hate it gets, I actually really enjoy this attraction. Now it's time to move over into New Orleans Square. The first ride we encounter is Haunted Mansion. Right now, it's still all dressed up for Halloween and Christmas, but it will be closing on Monday, January 22nd, as they begin a huge construction project on the outside of the attraction. They plan to extend and improve the queue, as well as add in a gift shop at the end of the ride. Nobody really knows exactly when it's going to reopen, so keep an eye on the refurbishment schedule as your trip draws closer. Some online rumors seem to indicate that the ride may stay as Haunted Mansion Holiday and remain closed until the Halloween season kicks off in August of 2024. That would mean that Classic Haunted Mansion, without the holiday overlay, won't return until 2025. Pirates of the Caribbean is a classic Disneyland attraction and crowd favorite. While Haunted Mansion undergoes refurbishment, Pirates of the Caribbean will add a lightning lane. Despite this ride featuring 2 drops, it has no height requirement. Once again, this means it's perfectly safe for babies and pregnant women. This slow-moving boat ride, aside from the small drops of course, is a must-ride on any visit to Disneyland. Before we enter Adventureland, we're going to take a small detour up to Frontierland. The first ride we come across is the Mark Twain Riverboat and sailing ship Columbia. These 2 boats share the same dock and the same tour around the rivers of America, but are actually 2 separate rides with slightly different experiences. They may not be different enough for you to consider riding both, but if you could only pick one, which would you ride? Let me know down in the comments below. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is the premier attraction here in Frontierland. It does have a lightning lane, and guests must be a minimum of 40 inches to go on the wildest ride in the wilderness. If you'd like an especially unique experience, ask to sit in the back row, and then as you go over the primary lift hill, keep your eye on the goat and don't look away under any circumstances. Gravity and your body's equilibrium will send you on a bit of a vertigo trip that spices up this classic attraction. Now let's head back to Adventureland, but through the back entrance by New Orleans Square. The first attraction you'll come across is not a ride, but we'll include it here anyway. The former Tarzan's Treehouse was newly renovated and reopened as the Adventureland Treehouse in November of 2023. This renovation marks a return to the Swiss Family Robinson themes it used to bear and is now more closely related to the Swiss Family Treehouse at Magic Kingdom in Florida. Make sure you take the time to walk through this attraction on your next visit. Next, we have Indiana Jones Adventure Temple of the Forbidden Eye. This is one of Disneyland's unique attractions alongside Matterhorn and a few others that you won't find in any other Disney park. Frequent visitors to Walt Disney World's Animal Kingdom will notice similarities to Dinosaur, but I want you to know that Indiana Jones is far superior to that attraction. Though it still jostles you around, it feels a little less turbulent, is brighter with far more to look at, and has that amazing Indiana Jones soundtrack that just makes Indiana Jones shine as one of the better attractions at Disneyland. This is a Lightning Lane eligible attraction, and its 46-inch height requirement makes it the highest at Disneyland Park. And lastly, we have Jungle Cruise. There's no Lightning Lane or height requirement for this classic attraction. This is yet another one of my favorite rides in the park, and I always look forward to that moment when we reach
the backside opener!
The ride is completely tame, and the only danger you'll encounter is the skipper's dry humor that makes this attraction what it is. I can never get enough Jungle Cruise.
And that's it for our time here today at Disneyland, sharing with you the ultimate ride guide for 2024. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please hit the like and subscribe button. If you have questions I didn't answer, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. Then click this video to check out my 2024 food guide. See you again next time.